Hey mama, welcome to MOMDAY. My name is Ella, and in this video, we're going to talk about reducing our risk of large tears during childbirth. Perineal tearing happens for multiple reasons, but it typically occurs due to the perineal tissue and pelvic floor muscles not being able to handle the amount of stretch that baby's head and body places on them during birth. So in this routine, we're going to work on stretching and lengthening these muscles prior to labor so that they can handle that stretch better. You can do this routine from about 34 plus weeks of pregnancy or sooner. For equipment, we don't really need any equipment, but I do have a yoga block for a supported deep squat pose. If you don't have a yoga block, then you can grab anything around your house, a stack of books to help support you a little bit more. And if you struggle with sore knees, then grab a blanket just to make it a little bit softer. This routine is all about relaxing and releasing tension. So do your best to clear your distractions, maybe turn down the lights, put on some comfy clothes, and when you're ready, let's jump into the routine. We're going to start in a frog pose. So this is where you might want your blanket just to make it a little bit softer under the knees. I'm going to fold up my yoga mat here, and we're going to have our knees out really nice and wide, and then our feet out even wider than our knees. And then from here, I'm going to drop down onto my forearms, and I'm going to think about pushing my hips back towards my heels. And from this position, we're just going to work on really deep inhales, expanding the rib cage 360 degrees. So at the front, at the back, and at the sides. With that inhale, you can visualize the pelvic floor lengthening, descending, and stretching. And then passive exhales, just let all of that air out of the body. So really tapping into that breathing pattern, that parasympathetic nervous system. That's going to tell our body that we can relax, we're safe, we can release tension in all of these positions. It's going to help to lengthen and stretch those muscles even more. So big inhales, expanding the rib cage, filling the belly with air, pelvic floor lengthens. And then long exhales out through the mouth, just let all that air go. Let your body be heavy here. Do a quick body scan. Notice where you're holding tension. Are you gripping your jaw? Are you gripping your glutes, your eyebrows? Just try to let everything go. Nice focus on that pelvic floor, stretching the muscles between our two sits bones. Really inhaling into that space in the pelvis. And then long exhales, let all that air go. Nice job, mama. From here, we're going to keep the knees out nice and wide, but what we're going to do is bring the feet in. You can bring your knees in just a little bit closer, and we're going to sit back into a child's pose. Now you can be on your forearms here, or you can add in a little bit of a lat stretch, bringing the arms out in front of you, stretching those fingertips away from you, feeling a nice stretch through the lats. And then same thing, with every inhale, think about breathing into that space in the pelvic floor. Pelvic floor muscles are descending and lengthening. And then passive exhales, let everything go. Let your hips melt into the floor, let your body be heavy. The weight of your body is going to help to stretch the hips. Forehead just gently resting down on the floor. And again, just focusing on that breathing, that deep breathing. Breathing into the back. That's going to help us to release tension in the posterior pelvic floor, the back of the pelvic floor, where most people hold tension. And it's also the area of the pelvic floor that undergoes the most stretch during childbirth.
So for an easier and a smoother labor, we can work on releasing tension in that posterior pelvic floor during pregnancy.
Stroke them up. Okay, you're going to pull yourself up and we're going to come into a half kneeling position here. So we're going to go from half kneeling to a little hamstring stretch. If you have a yoga block and you like to use that for support, then grab your yoga block. We're going to start with our left leg forward and our right leg back. If you want to, you can use your little support here just to hold the body. We're going to have a nice wide stance with the legs, make room for that belly. And then you're going to drop your weight forward, feeling a nice stretch through the hip flexor. Think about tucking your bum under here. Again, breathing into each pose. And then what we're going to do is rock our weight back, coming into a hamstring stretch, flex the foot. And again, you can do this with or without a yoga block. And then we're going to pull forward, coming back into that half kneeling hip flexor stretch. Big inhale, long exhales. Releasing the muscles around the pelvis that connect into the pelvic floor and support the pelvic floor, releasing tension. And you can just find a range of motion, a variation of all of these movements that works for you. You can also use your birth ball if you have one for some support with these half kneeling rocks, or a bench nearby. And again, you can support something soft underneath this back knee for a little bit more comfort. That's going to help you to relax and release tension just that little bit more if you're on a hard floor. Nice job. Okay, we're going to keep our left leg out to the side. I'm going to swivel over and we're going to come into an adductor stretch, so an inner thigh stretch here. So with this leg extended, we're looking for our toe in line with our knee. And then again, you're going to just rock your weight back towards your heel, so bum towards the heel. And you should feel that nice stretch through the inner thigh here. Our adductors have deep connections into our pelvic floor. And so releasing the inner thighs can help to release that pelvic floor tension. And again, we're just doing those big inhales, visualizing the pelvic floor muscles lengthening as you inhale into your belly. And then long exhales. From here, you can rock your weight forward and rock back. You can also play around with flexing the foot towards the ceiling, seeing if that changes the stretch for you at all. And then again, just let your body be heavy. Sink into the stretch. When you're ready, we're going to transition to our half kneeling hip flexor stretch on the other side. So right leg forward and left leg drops back. Again, finding a variation of this that works for you, either using some support or coming down to the floor. Feeling that stretch through the front of the pelvis here. And then when you're ready, you can pull back, coming into that hamstring stretch, flexing the foot. Sinking into each pose, trying to get a little bit deeper with each inhale. Remember, we still want to be gentle with our body as we stretch throughout pregnancy, because we have those pregnancy hormones that create joint laxity. So We don't want to force our body into any positions, just being very gentle and deeply breathing. And then I'm going to swivel around, coming into our inner thigh stretch on this right side now. And noticing if one side feels any different or more restricted to the other side. Addressing uneven tension during pregnancy is really important. So just noticing that, being aware of it. And maybe spending a little bit more time on the tighter side, breathing into that side a little bit more, focusing on releasing a little bit more. And again, you can rock forward and back here. You can play around with the position of the foot, maybe flexing up towards the ceiling. For our next pose, we're going to come into a deep squat position. Again, you can do this with or without support. So we're going to have a nice wide stance with the legs. Option to be without support, just in your deep squat here. You can also hold onto something like a door frame in front of you for a little bit more support, or you can grab a hold of a block or a stack of books and place that underneath your bum so that you have something to sit on. Wherever you're at, we're gonna have nice wide knees here. And then if you lost it, we're gonna tap back into that breathing. So big inhales, expanding the rib cage, 360 degrees at the front, at the sides, and through the back. With that inhale, visualize that pelvic floor lengthening and descending, releasing those muscles. And then exhale, let all the air go. I like to use my elbows on the inside of my knees to drive my knees out a little bit more, coming into more external rotation here. Let's do one more deep breath together. Hopefully that gave you enough time to really feel that release and that relaxation. Our next pose we're going to come into is a half happy baby pose. If you are symptom-free laying on your back, then there's always the option to do a full happy baby pose. But if you're with me, we're going to start by laying on our left side. And we're gonna grab a hold of the outside of our foot with a bent knee, pulling our knee in towards our chest, coming into our half happy baby here. And then again, we're breathing into that space between the two sit bones, really feeling that opening and that lengthening through the pelvic floor. Relaxing and releasing tension. Relax the glutes, relax the abs, relax your jaw. Close down your eyes if that feels nice for you. Really breathing into the back. Expanding those rib cage, those ribs at the back of your body.
when you're ready, release. We're going to come into a child's pose with internal rotation this time. So we're going to have our knees a little bit narrower than a traditional child's pose. And from those narrow knees, we're then going to send our feet out even wider, coming into internal rotation at the hip. And this is going to spread our two sit bones apart, stretching through that posterior pelvic floor. And then I'm just going to rock my weight back and forward, coming into just these little child's pose rocks. Again, big inhales here, breathing into that space between the two sit bones. And then let your head rest on the floor, your forehead rest on the floor, reaching the arms out in front of you. Fingertips are stretched out, reaching as far forward as you can, feeling that stretch through the lats. Keeping the bum high in the air again, making space for the belly. And really thinking about breathing into that space between the two sit bones. Feel those muscles lengthening. We're going to come into a brief child's pose here. So bring those feet in together and sit your bum all the way back, revisiting that child's pose. Again, reach those fingertips forward. We're going to take 3 deep breaths here. Nice. Carefully pushing yourself up, and we're going to come to our happy baby pose, laying on the right side this time. Final pose for today. Laying on your right side, grabbing a hold of the outside of that left leg. If you can't reach the foot, then you can just hold on to the ankle or the shin, wherever is comfy for you. And again, really breathing into the pelvic floor, into the back side of the rib cage. One final breath here. Slowly sit yourself up. Okay, that was our routine to help reduce perineal tearing during labor. You can do that routine daily in your final trimester as you get closer to that due date. Remember, the most important part of that is big inhales, feeling the pelvic floor, relaxing, expanding, and then passive exhales, no contraction, just let all that air go. I wish you a very successful labor and delivery, mama. Thank you so much for joining me for that quick flow. I hope you liked it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you in our next one together. Bye, mama. If you enjoyed that labor prep session, I would love to move with you over on the MOMDAY app, where we have pregnancy and postpartum workouts, mobility sessions, and more labor prep sessions. It's all free to try for 7 days. I will leave the link down below.